Hey everybody, Jeff coming to you from jeffcanes.com, and today we'll take a little bit more time, but we'll talk about Elastic Audio, which is Pro Tools' built-in time-align software. It's actually built into the track, which is really cool. Today we're going to use it actually on our drums, which drum editing can be one of the most tedious things in a session, depending on the genre and the caliber of your drummer. In our case, we were actually pretty lucky to have a really solid one, but there's the odd thing that kind of falls in and out of time, and we just really want to make sure that everything is really locked in and on the one. Personally, I'm a big fan of actually having a little bit of the realism fact. Your drummer kind of falls in and out of time just a hair. Your guitar players may do that a little bit, but in metal, typically it's not something that goes over so well because all of the rhythms are going to be very well interlocked, and you have other pieces playing off of them, and however your song is built. So we'll just kind of go in there and just tighten it up just a little bit. So the first thing we want to make sure is that we're actually in grid mode. Grid mode being that it's going to be matching onto our click track, and all of the lines are represented in our BPM, our beats per minute that we're doing in the song. In this case, it is. The second thing you're going to want to make sure is that our tracks are going to be in a group edit. And if you're not too sure on how to do a group edit, then look back to one of my last videos. We're not going to be cutting or pasting, but the big thing is that we need our cursor to be across all of the lines, so that's the easiest way. So once we're in that, we're actually going to just enable Elastic Audio, which actually is this little icon on the track here. So we'll just click on this, and currently it's set to disable Elastic Audio, and because we're doing drums, well, that will be rhythmic. So we'll just flip that over to rhythmic. And depending on how fast your computer is, this step could take a little bit, but ours is generally pretty good. Then the next step is to actually change our track view from wherever you're in, waveform or volume automation or mute automation, to actually warp. Now what warp will do is it's actually going to render your track and actually look for any transient along that channel. So a transient being any hit. And as you can see on some of our tracks, such as the snare bottom, it picked up some sort of noise or signal that was in there, which isn't really something that we need to worry about because clearly that's where our snare hit is. So just keep that in mind as you're going through your sessions, that not every little marker needs to be edited. And that was actually my first mistake. You can get carried away very easily if you're putting every single marker on a grid. So typically a really easy way to do it is actually to just make sure that your 1 and 3 is locked into the grid, and then everything else should kind of fall in between. Again, depending on the caliber of your drummer. So to get started, what we want to do is we want to set, and we'll just right click on the section, and we'll just actually go add warp marker. And what the warp marker is going to do is it's going to kind of act as an anchor. So if we were to grab this transient, as you see, it turns into a little sideways arrow. It's basically saying, how do you want to move it? So if I just move this collectively, you'll notice that it's actually moving the whole track. And it's cool because it would give me a little remix option. But that's clearly not something that I want to be using. So what we want to just do is just kind of periodically put in warp markers. And what this is going to do is it's just going to lock in our session. So I'll just do a couple here. This is a very tedious procedure, so give yourself some time. And what we'll do is we'll just actually kind of lock it into the one. Actually, before I do that, let's just take a quick listen and see if we have anything really sticking out. That actually, for the most part, was really good. But we'll just give it a little bit of assistance. Again, just because we have so much locking into it, we want to just make sure that everything's just bang on. So once you've kind of set your anchor points, you just need to click and drag. So we'll just move this right to the 1. Actually, I'll zoom in just a little bit. And now I'm looking at my 4 count on my grid, which is perfect because that's all I'm really looking for is the 1 and the 3. We'll just carry on through our session and just find all of our transients. And actually it's looking pretty good. We don't have anything really terribly out, and that's really all it is. There's obviously that human aspect in there where you're just a hair in and around, and like I said, typically I'm a big fan of that, but in metal it's not something that's really going to go over too well. So we'll just line these up, and this one's out a little bit, That's okay. There's that. And on the 1 and the 3. And everyone kind of does this a bit of a different way, but this is really just kind of to show you how to do the edits. And some people like to cut off a whole region and edit, because obviously you're just looking at a track session with a bunch of lines on it. It can get pretty confusing pretty quick. And as you can see there, I'm moving my whole session, which means I don't have any markers over there. So that's clearly not a good way to go, but we'll just call it there. Actually, we'll go through this fill. Let's make one more. So there's that, and here's the 1 and the 1, and that should be good there. Okay, so let's see how that sounds. So you notice right off the bat, it actually cleaned up a little bit. We're getting some weird kind of effects in our symbols there, but what we would want to do is actually zoom into that and actually edit them out, because we can see that they're a little in behind the lines, and that's why we're getting that kind of almost breathing effect. And a lot of times it's actually from the other markers. So that's just something that takes a little bit of time to get into, but like I said, we're just going to scratch the surface, kind of show you how to get going, and then that would be the case there. But in order to fix that, we would just kind of move those lines around. So once we've actually set up our section, and once we've gone all the way through the song and we're happy with the way that it's been done, then what we're actually going to do is come back to where it says rhythmic. We'll go back to the little marker again, and then we'll actually flip it from real-time processing, allowing us to make edits, to go to a rendered processing. It's basically going to apply the effect. And as you can see, everything goes blank because the computer is going to redraw that waveform with all the edits that we made. So you're physically manipulating the waveform to line up on the line that you want it to be at. And once you've gone from that step, then the last step you want to do is actually just to turn off the elastic audio, because it's going to be a really big CPU hog and it's going to take up a lot of your resources, which we can use for plugins and other things. So once we've rendered the form, it's really important, we'll actually come back up and just go to disable elastic audio. We'll then get this little screen that basically says it's not going to do anything until we commit our changes, because it actually needs to fully apply the effect. So we'll go commit, and then as you can see, now it's actually turning it into as a plugin would, and now it's actually been done. You notice that it's added the little RHYT because it's telling us that it's been a rhythm edited form. But now you know how to actually get through there and do your elastic audio within Pro Tools. Very, very tedious step, but it is something that can help you along the way if you really need to lock something in. So I hope that helps you guys, and until the next time, this is Jeff coming to you from jeffcanes.com, and we'll see you later.